and then some men entered. I opened the door of the car where I was sitting, and then removed me, and then they drove off.
My neighbor's maid came with my daughter, Neremi, and told me, Mama Christine, something has happened. Mama Christine has been shot, but she was actually so confused. So she told me something has happened. Baba Christian has been shot, but we don't know whether she didn't continue.
At that time, my greatest concern was, in fact, the first time I was told your father has died, the first question I asked myself is, what are we going to do? Because my elder sister had just finished Form 4, then I was next. Neremi was 5 years old, so it's a very young family, and this is the primary breadwinner.
I remember being asked the same questions over and over again, and all I would say is I do not recall. I'd be asked, do you recognize the men sitting there? I'd be like, no, I do not recall. Most of the things they asked me, I could not recall. Yeah.
It was a perfect evening for a father and daughter. The dad was making up for a birthday date that he had missed, but that very evening, 19 years ago, the father was having a date with his killers. Case Files starts now. If this was January 1999, the daughters of Eliza, Babu Acheng will have been dropped in school, with Neremi, the youngest of them all, staying at home with the mother. Events of January 1999 will change the picture-perfect, closely knit family of the then Nakuru Chief Magistrate, Babu Acheng. Babu had been transferred to Nakuru County as the topmost judicial officer and will travel home every other week to be with his young family. Neremi was 5 years old at the time.
So we ran some errands. We went to Kileleshwa, where we owned a house at the time that we rented out. The tenant had a few issues, so we were going to check out the place. And then on our way back home, I don't know if it was my idea or his, but I know we wanted lollipops.
The dad had missed the daughter's birthday. Neremi told Case Files the father ordered a candy. Father and daughter stopped at the local shop to buy some candy, a touching distance from their house.
We stopped by a shop that was near our house. We lived on Riara Road. The kiosks have since been demolished, but there were many there. So we stopped there. I was sitting at the back. He came out of the car. He went and bought the lollipops and a few items, I think bread and milk.
Moments later, while holding our gifts from the father and those of our older sisters tucked somewhere on the backseat of our father's motor vehicle, we'll witness how world as she knew it turned upside down.
He opened the door, handed me the items, and then on his way to the driver's seat, I just had 3 gunshots.
Neremi says she stayed frozen on the same spot, terrified. The father had been shot.
Some men entered. I opened the door of the car where I was sitting, and then removed me, and then they drove off. So I just stood there. With my dad was laying there. I just stood there confused. I was 5. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if he had fainted, he had collapsed, if he was playing a game. I had no idea, so I just stood there. I can't remember for how long, but then my neighbors were coming to the shop and they recognized me, so they took me home.
The Nakuru Chief Magistrate had been shot once in the head and at close range. Nothing was stolen from him. The Chief Magistrate's widow says she was at home when a neighbor came rushing in.
My neighbor's maid came with my daughter, Neremi, and told me, Mama Christine, something has happened. Baba Christine has been shot, but she was actually so confused. So she told me something has happened. Baba Christine has been shot, but we don't know whether she didn't continue. So I was in my nightgown and my cousin was seated there. I just went upstairs, took the car keys, and we went to the scene.
Neremi did not utter a word. The 5-year-old had just witnessed the father getting shot.
When we went to the scene, we found the body lying there. Actually, I didn't even look at the body. We just carried him to the back seat. And we went to Nairobi. We drove to Nairobi Hospital. And there we met the doctors and they were trying to resuscitate him. After a few hours, they called us that they can't help, that he's gone.
Ann Babu, at the time in her final year in high school, says she was called by the school's principal and informed about the father's sudden demise.
So I was just called to the sister's office, and because it doesn't happen, I'd been there for years, I'd never had a one-on-one with the sister, the principal actually. When I saw a family friend there and they were trying to convey it, she was like, oh Anne, sometimes things happen to parents and your father. I could tell she was really hesitating, and I actually finished for her. I asked her, has he died? And that's when they said, yes, he died.
The news of the Chief Magistrate's death spread fast. The then President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi directed the police to get to the bottom of the judicial officer's killing. The Attorney General at the time, Amos Wako, told the nation, those who killed Babu Achieng will only run, but they will not hide.
At that time, my greatest concern was, in fact, the first time I was told your father has died, the first question I asked myself is, what are we going to do? Because my elder sister had just finished Form 4, then I was next. Neremi was 5 years old, so it's a very young family, and this is the primary breadwinner. So that was the first thing on my mind. What are we going to do? Life is definitely going to change. In the context of all that, then I'm also thinking, I honestly thought I now really have to make it in life.
After several weeks of a nationwide manhunt, 4 people were arrested in connection with the killing of the Chief Magistrate, John Maina Kinywa, John Njoroge Njagi, Henry Ajega Josam, and the doctor, David Midhamo Nderitu. The 4 were accused of violently robbing the young father and judicial officer, a robbery that occasioned his death. The prosecution heavily relied on the evidence of a man who allegedly had information about the murder plot hatched 5 days before the Nakuru Chief Magistrate was gunned down. But the witness was the 5-year-old Neremi Achieng, who witnessed the father getting killed.
I was 12, I was in class 6. I went home after school and I found my mom with a man there, and they explained to me what was about to happen, that there was a court case, and I knew I was the only witness, so I couldn't say no. If I said no, there'd basically be no case.
For 2 days, Neremi stood in the dock to narrate to the court the events of the evening of the 15th of January, 1999.
I remember being asked the same questions over and over again, and all I would say is I do not recall. I'd be asked, do you recognize the men sitting there? I'd be like, no, I do not recall. Most of the things they asked me, I could not recall. Yeah. And my mom was with me every day. She was really supportive. If I complained about anything, if I said I can't handle this, she would have stopped everything. But the experience of going to court for me, that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was those people being in court, having to look them in the eye and thinking, because of you and because of your decision, I'm going to have to grow up without a father.
Initially, police investigators had a theory of a plot hatched in Nakuru and later executed in Nairobi. This was to change in court when those accused of killing the magistrate disowned their own statements. Case Files takes a short break.